Welcome to the Ford on Sports podcast. I'm Austin Ford here to give you my takes on sport. Now, today is going to be a little bit of a short episode. The last few ones have been long, but today we don't have much to talk about outside of the undrafted free agents. I'm going to break down what each team has done so far in that field. So they're undrafted free agents. I'm going to let you know who I think might have been some steals on each team's UDFA signings. But let's start it off with the Arizona Cardinals. St. Louis corner out of Air Force. Ryan Becker, tight end, SMU. Steven Gonzalez, guard, Penn State. We had Jace Whitaker, corner out of Arizona. Adam Schuler, defensive lineman out of Florida. Reggie Floyd, a safety out of Virginia Tech. Shane Leatherbury, receiver out of Towson. Jackson Dennis, offensive tackle out of Holy Cross. TJ Carter, defensive lineman out of Kentucky. Jonathan Ward, running back out of Central Michigan. Reggie Walker, linebacker, Kansas State. Sergio Hoffman, running back, Portland State. Jeremiah Braswell, receiver, Youngstown State. Visual Wilson, corner, Liberty. Jaron Williams, Albany, cornerback. Parker Houston, tight end, San Diego State. Drew Dickinson, offensive lineman out of Findlay. JoJo Ward, receiver out of Hawaii. Devin Phillips, receiver out of Shepherd. Rashard Medeiros, receiver out of Cincinnati. And Jake Benziger, offensive lineman out of Wake Forest. Arizona, they've made a lot of moves, the UDFA signings. But I don't think any of these guys are going to be really people that will be fighting for day one jobs or for fighting to make the roster. I think a lot of these guys are just going to be some preseason depth. I don't really think any of these names are really going to have that big of a chance to make the roster. It's just, I'm not really sold on any of them. I don't think their UDFA signings are anybody too special, anybody you can really rely on. I don't think they did a very good job in UDFA. Next, we have the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this is a team that's did some decent pickups. We got Mikey Daniel, fullback out of South Dakota State. Jared Pinkey, tight end, Vanderbilt. Bryson Young, repping Oregon, defensive end. Austin Capps, offensive lineman out of Arkansas. Derek Abrams, he is a corner out of Colorado. Caleb Rep, tight end, Utah State. Jordan Williams, linebacker, Baylor. Evan Kazerchli, offensive lineman, Buffalo. Hunter Atkinson, Georgia State, offensive lineman. Chris Rowland, receiver out of Tennessee State. Tyler Hall, defensive back out of Wyoming. Rogershman Ferris, a corner out of Hawaii. Scotty Dill, an offensive lineman out of Memphis. Henwa Aleu, defensive tackle out of Nebraska Kearney. Austin Edwards, a defensive end out of Ferris State. Jawan Green, receiver out of Albany. Selassie Latu, defensive tackle out of San Jose State. Jalen McCleskey, receiver out of Tulane. And Ray Wilborn, linebacker out of Ball State. And Justin Gooseberry, guard out of Rice. I think there's a few players here that could possibly make the day one roster. And Jared Pinkey and Bryson Young, I think those were very solid pickups. Jared Pinkey, as we know, was one of the few tight ends going into this year's draft that we thought might be drafted. He did not get drafted. Bryson Young, I got to see him play a lot by watching Oregon games. He's not necessarily an elite defensive end, but he's good. I think he could be a very solid backup in Atlanta. So I think they definitely did better than the Cardinals. The Cardinals, I don't think they brought any day one guys that could fight for one of those 53 roster spots. And then we got the Baltimore Ravens. They went a little interesting route. Tyler Huntley, quarterback out of Utah. Eli Wolf, tight end out of Georgia. Chauncey Rivers, defensive end out of Mississippi State. Tyson Williams, running back, BYU. Tristan Colton Castillo, center out of Mizzou. Jacob Breland, repping Oregon, tight end. Nigel Warrior, defensive back out of Tennessee. Aaron Crawford, defensive lineman, North Carolina. Christian Welch, linebacker, Iowa. Josh Nurse, corner, Utah. Dom DiMaggio, punter out of Wake Forest. And John Daka, edge rusher out of James Madison. Tyler Huntley is a guy that I think might find his way onto the roster. A solid player at Utah, not special, but solid. Chauncey Rivers, a guy I liked while he was in college. He's a decent little pass rusher there for the Mississippi State team. I think he could translate that into the NFL and be a nice little UDFA signing for the Ravens. And then obviously we're gonna hype up them Oregon boys with Jake Breland, very solid tight end, good pass catcher. We love everything about Jake Breland here. Next, we have the Buffalo Bills. Reggie Gilman, tight end out of Toledo. Markel Harrell, offensive lineman, Auburn. Ike Brown, corner out of Florida International. Josh Thomas, a defensive back out of App State. Antonio Williams, a running back out of North Carolina. Brandon Walton, an offensive tackle out of Florida Atlantic. And Garrett Taylor, a safety out of Penn State. To me, I think Josh Thomas is the dark horse here. App State, we know they can coach some good players. They get you ready. Their team might not be the most well known, but they always have some decent prospects. And I think Josh Thomas could be one of them. The Bills, once again, not a team that went big in the UDFA signings. Next, we have the Carolina Panthers. Cam Sutton, tight end, Fresno State. Chris Orr, linebacker, Wisconsin. Trevante Heights, receiver, TCU. Miles Hartsfield, defensive back, Ole Miss. Brandon Bowen, offensive lineman, Ohio State. Omar Bayless, receiver, Arkansas State. Rodney Smith, running back, Minnesota. Miles Adams, defensive tackle, Rice. Mike Horton, offensive lineman, Auburn. Giovanni Ricci, tight end, Western Michigan. Fred Maloga, center, Washington State. And Sam Franklin, a linebacker out of Temple. When I look at this, Chris Orr is a pretty solid pickup. He's just a very solid linebacker for Wisconsin this year. Brandon Bowen could be interesting because we know Ohio State likes to produce these good players. They're just good players. And then Rod Smith, Minnesota, a decent little running back. He's been kind of like their focus point of their offense for Minnesota. So why did my thing die? Hold on. That's not the Ohio State thing. So if you're on YouTube, thanks for watching. But it stopped after the Ohio State Brandon Bowen thing. Interesting. Okay. And on top of that, Rod Smith is a good running back, very solid running back out of Minnesota. Messed up. So this podcast is going crazy. First the memo pops down, and then the phone pops down. So, oh my! Just know the way you're listening to this. It took me a minute to probably edit this all together because I'm just just having a rough day with technology. This is ridiculous. Now, finally, we can talk about the Chicago Bears after a little bit of technology mishaps with my phone and voice memos here on my laptop. We have the Chicago Bears. They signed the brother of Khalil Mack, Ladarius Mack, defensive end out of Buffalo. Ahmad Wagner, a tight end out of Kentucky. Rashad Smith, a linebacker out of Florida Atlantic. Badara Terrer, offensive tackle at LSU. Trevon McSwain, defensive lineman out of Duke. Artavius Pierce, running back out of Oregon State. And Dieter Eiselen, offensive lineman out of Yale. There is not a single fan base I hate more than the Chicago Bears fan base. These people, man, they have no idea what they're talking about. You go and you see everybody talk about it. They all think they know what they're saying. They're all like, well, I don't know why is everybody's complaining we don't have offensive linemen. We just drafted 2 and we just signed 2. Oh my gosh, can you pick up the hints? None of these offensive linemen we are drafting or we are signing are going to be day 1 guys. We need day 1 guys. And we could have got that in this year's draft in round 2 and round 3 and round 4. We didn't. We didn't because the Bears are not a very well-ran team. I don't understand why these people are defending Chicago. It's like, come on. Don't let them trick you just because they're signing these players. That doesn't mean they're good players. It doesn't mean nothing against the players. We just want better players. I want a better tier. We had a chance at a better tier player, and we didn't go after it. But anyways, Ladarius Mack could be an interesting signing. Brother of Khalil. I don't know why we signed Ahmad Wagner. He's like our 12th tight end on roster. Doesn't make much sense to me. So, Bears once again. They don't know what they need, man. They do not know what they need. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, one of the better teams in the draft. And we'll see if they continue into the UDFA. They took Kendall Futrell, linebacker at East Carolina. And Devwah Wally, running back at Arkansas. Isaiah Swan, corner out of Dartmouth. Scotty Washington, receiver out of Wake Forest. Clay Cordeso, offensive lineman out of Oregon State. Josh Knimpel, offensive lineman out of Iowa State. Marcel Spears, a linebacker out of Iowa State. And I think Marcel Spears is probably the best name you can get in UDFA for the Bengals, at least. They needed some linebacker help. Marcel Spears didn't get drafted. He's a really solid player out of Iowa State. I think it was a real good signing. We got the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns got Javonte Mafat, safety, Middle Tennessee. Tony Brown, a receiver out of Colorado. Alex Taylor, offensive tackle, South Carolina State. Kevin Davidson, quarterback out of Princeton. Jamison Houston, a corner out of Baylor. Benny LeMay, running back, Charlotte. Brian Herian, a running back out of Georgia. George Obiana, defensive end, Sacramento State. Austin Hall, linebacker, Memphis. Drake Dorback, offensive tackle, Mississippi. Nate Whittigan, tight end, Iowa. Elijah Benton, a safety out of Liberty. Jeffrey Watley, defensive tackle out of South Alabama. Solomon Ajayi, linebacker out of Liberty. And AJ Green, corner out of Oklahoma State. AJ Green is a guy I thought might be a 6th, 7th rounder. So I think UDFA signing for AJ Green is a good spot. I think he's a guy that's going to be able to contend for one of your 53 roster spots. I don't know if he will get it, but he's a very solid player. Next, we have the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, Ladarius Hamilton, defensive end out of Northern Texas. Sean McKeon, tight end out of Michigan. Rondell Carter, defensive end out of James Madison. Charlie Tompadio, tight end, Portland State. Azir Kamara, edge rusher out of Kansas. Francis Bernard, a linebacker out of Utah. Rico Dowdle, running back out of South Carolina. Stephen Guidry, receiver out of Mississippi State. Luther Kirk, a safety at Illinois State. Garrett Marino, defensive lineman out of UAB. Sibo Alanuya, I probably butchered his name, running back out of TCU. Aaron Parker, receiver out of Rhode Island. Terrence Steele, offensive tackle out of Texas Tech. And Kendrick Rogers, receiver out of Texas A&M. I think Rico Dowdle could be a nice little pickup. I think Stephen Goodry could be a decent little pickup. And Kendrick Rogers, I think could also be a very good pickup. I think those are guys that might be able to surprise you a little bit and make it onto the 53-man roster. Next, we have the Denver Broncos. They took Zamari Manning, receiver out of Tarleton State. Ricky Neal, a quarterback out of Vandy. Kendall Hinton, a receiver out of Wake Forest. Isang Bassi, a corner out of Wake Forest as well. Levante Bellamy, a running back out of Western Michigan. Hunter Watson, offensive tackle out of Central Arkansas. And Douglas Coleman, the safety out of Texas Tech. I don't think the Broncos really are looking to put a UDFA onto their 53-man roster because I don't think any of these guys are going to make the next step. Detroit Lions, they took Hunter Bryant, tight end out of Washington. Stephen Wordle, the long snapper out of Iowa State. Bobby Price, a defensive back out of Norfolk State. Jalen Elliott, a safety out of Notre Dame. Jeremiah Denson, a safety out of Auburn. Luke Sellers, a fullback out of South Dakota State. Jeremiah Denson, a defensive back out of Auburn. And Aaron Sapas, Hunter out of Auburn. I think Hunter Bryant could make the roster. I really like Hunter Bryant. He's a very good player. And I also think Jalen Elliott, safety, could make the roster. Two very solid players there. So props to you, Detroit. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers. Patrick Taylor, running back out of Memphis. Darrell Stewart, receiver out of Michigan State. Jordan Jones, tight end out of Prairie View A&M. Stanford Samuels, corner, Florida State. Zach Johnson, offensive tackle, North Dakota State. Chris Barnes, linebacker, UCLA. Will Sunderland, corner out of Troy. Tepe Gale, defensive end out of Utah State. Henry Black, a safety. Jalen Morton, quarterback out of Prairie View A&M. Then we got Travis Bruffy, offensive tackle out of Texas Tech. Wellington Previon, defensive end out of Rutgers. And Chris Barnes, linebacker out of Cal. I think Tepe Galloway is definitely a guy that could make the roster. Pat Stewart, same thing. Two really solid players there. It'll be interesting to see if Tepe Galloway makes the roster. I mean, he's a really good player out of Utah State, so I would assume he would. But it's going to be hard to make that 53-man roster, especially in Green Bay. Next, we got the Houston Texans. They go out and they get Tyler Simmons, receiver, Georgia. Cordell Iwagu, a guard out of TCU. Jameer Jones, a linebacker out of Notre Dame. Dylan Stapleton, a tight end out of James Madison. Scotty Phillips, running back out of Ole Miss. Ozoya Alafai, defensive tackle out of West Georgia. No idea who you are. Alex Woodworth, offensive lineman out of North Texas. Jan Johnson, a linebacker out of Penn State. And Nick Tiano, quarterback out of UT Chattanooga. Texans, once again, are another team that I think that maybe one guy that might make the roster, and that's Scotty Phillips, Ole Miss running back. He's a really good player. I think he has a chance to make the roster at least. The Indianapolis Colts, we all love the kicker they picked. Roddy Blankenship, respect the specs. Rodrigo Blankenship, kicker out of Georgia. Kendall Coleman, defensive end out of Syracuse. Carter O'Donnell, offensive lineman out of University of Alberta. Travis Reed, South Alabama, corner. Donald Rutledge, safety out of Georgia Southern. Cameron Klein, defensive lineman out of South Dakota. And DeMichael Harris, receiver out of Southern Mississippi. I think we all know good old Big Leg Roddy's going to make the roster. I mean, he's just a good player. Next, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now they went heavy in the UDFA. Tavian Feaster, running back South Carolina. J.R. Reed, safety out of Georgia. Trevor Wallace Sims, guard out of Mizzou. Doug Coslin, defensive tackle, Miami, Ohio. Ben Ellefson, tight end, North Dakota State. Kobe Williams, corner, Arizona State. Luke Barco, corner, San Diego State. Andy Godwin, offensive tackle, Furman. Josh Hammond, receiver, Florida. Ross Mystique, long snapper, Baylor. Stephen Nielsen, offensive tackle, EMU. Nathan Corchell, running back, Georgia State. James Robertson, running back, Illinois State. Connor Slomka, fullback out of Army. Mari Henderson, corner out of Wake Forest. Austin Pleasance, offensive lineman, Ohio. Marvell Ross, receiver out of Notre Dame College. And Brandon Wright, the kicker out of Georgia State. The one guy I really do like for them here is J.R. Reed. I think J.R. Reed didn't get the draft love he probably should have. He's just a very solid player. At least he was at Georgia. And the Chiefs had a good UDFA. Javaris Davis, corner, Auburn. Kalisha Wilson. Wow, I did not say that right. I didn't even say anything close. Kalijah Lipscomb, receiver out of Vandy. Brian Wright, linebacker out of Cincinnati. Darrell Williams, center out of Mississippi State. Tommy Townsend, punter, Florida. Cody White, receiver, Michigan State. Hakeem Bailey, corner, West Virginia. Lavert Hill, corner, Michigan. Yasir Durant, offensive tackle at Mizzou. Roddy Clemens, safety at SMU. Tershawn Wharton, defensive tackle at Mizzou S&T. Amari Cobb, linebacker out of Marshall. Jalen Julius, safety at Ole Miss. Andrea Bakelia, receiver out of Washington. Maurice French, receiver out of Pittsburgh. Aleva Hefo, receiver out of BYU. Justice Shelton Mosley, receiver out of Vandy. And then Jova Fair, the guard out of Temple. Yasir Durant, I think he could contend for a day one spot. Same thing with Lavert Hill, Cody White, Darrell Williams, and Javaris Davis. I think they did really solid. They got a lot of guys that have a chance to fight for one of those 53 spots on the roster. So I think they did a very solid job there. And next we have the Las Vegas Raiders taking George Mariner, receiver, Utah State. Dominic Eberle, kicker out of Utah State. Javon White, safety out of UNLV. Mike Panasky, defensive tackle out of Michigan State. Liam McCullough, long snapper out of Ohio State. And Madre Harper, corner out of Southern Illinois. So they didn't really do much here in the UDFA, and I don't think any of those guys are going to be able to fight for one of those positions. Next, we have the LA Chargers. Another team got a bunch of UDFAs. They're stockpiling. Romeo Finley, safety out of Miami. Nate Gillian, guard out of Wake Forest. Cole Christensen, linebacker, Army. Joe Gaziano, edge rusher out of Northwestern. Esmar Bilal, linebacker out of Notre Dame. Dante Vaughn, corner out of Notre Dame. Darius Bradwell, a running back out of Tulane. John Brannon, a corner out of Western Carolina. Jeff Cotton, a receiver out of Idaho. Joshua Dunlop, a guard out of Texas. San Antonio. Brighton Fiocco, nose tackle out of Louisiana State. Bobby Hawley, fullback out of Louisiana Tech. Jesse Lemonier, defensive end out of Liberty. Kevin McGill, corner out of EMU. Gabe Neighbors, fullback out of Florida State. Jared Rice, tight end out of Fresno State. Ryan Roberts, offensive tackle out of Florida State. Dalton Schoen, receiver, Kansas State. And TJ Smith, defensive tackle out of Arkansas. Another team, I don't think they really got any diamonds in the roughs here. I don't really think they hit on anybody, but it'll be interesting because they did bring in a lot of players. The Rams, Bryce Perkins, quarterback of Virginia. Josh Love, quarterback out of San Jose State. Cole Cabral, offensive lineman out of Arizona State. Tristan Jackson, receiver out of Syracuse. Eric Banks, that defensive lineman out of Texas San Antonio. Ernest Edwards, receiver out of Maine. James Gilbert, a running back out of Kansas State. Mike Hoach, defensive line out of Brown. Juju Hughes, my bad, defensive back out of Fresno. Xavier Jones, running back out of SMU. J.J. Koski, receiver out of Cal Poly. Dayan Lake, corner out of BYU. Tyreek McGee, corner out of Georgia. Brandon Polk, receiver out of James Madison. Greg Reeves, linebacker out of South Florida. Sam Renner, defensive lineman out of Minnesota. Christian Roseboom, linebacker, South Dakota State. Levante Taylor, Florida State, corner. Jonah Williams, defensive lineman out of Weber State. And Eason Winston, with a receiver out of Washington State. Bryce Perkins could be interesting, and definitely Levante Taylor has a chance to make that 53-man roster. Now the Miami Dolphins. Donald Staley, don't know who he is, offensive lineman, South Carolina. Benito Jones, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Kirk Romero, receiver out of Arkansas State. Ray Lima, defensive tackle out of Iowa State. Nick Kalmayer, offensive tackle, Kansas State. Tyshawn Render, defenseman at Middle State. Bryce Surter, defensive end out of Montana State. And Matt Cole, receiver out of McKendree. Very interesting. I think Benito Jones could be a very successful pick up here. Next, let's go to the Vikings. Courtney Davis, receiver out of Texas A&M. Miles Adorn, defensive back out of North Carolina. Neville corner out of UCF. Brady Io, rep in Oregon on the O-line. Tyler Higbee, offensive line, Michigan State. Jake Lucina, offensive line out of Augustana. Blake Lynch, a linebacker out of Baylor. David Moa, defense tackle, Boise State. Dan Chisena, receiver, Penn State. Jordan Afer, linebacker out of App State. Nakia Griffin Stewart, tight end out of Pitt. And Jake Vargas, tight end out of North Carolina. Like I said, the App State boys are somebody to watch. Jordan Fair could be good. I think Blake Lynch, the linebacker, Baylor, could be good. Brady Aiello, I like him. He's from Oregon. And Courtney Davis, definitely someone to watch. I think a few of these guys can make the 53-man roster over there in Minnesota. Next, we have the New England Patriots taking Brian Lewerke, quarterback out of Michigan State. Jeff Thomas, receiver, Miami. Isaiah Zuber, receiver, Mississippi State. Will Hastings, receiver, Auburn. Jamar Smith, quarterback out of Louisiana Tech. Miles Bryant, corner out of Washington. Bill Murray, defensive tackle, William & Mary. J.J. Taylor, running back out of Zona. Nick Coe, defensive end out of Auburn. Dejon Harris, linebacker, Arkansas. Sean Riley, receiver, Syracuse. Kaivan Tezio, linebacker, San Diego State. Bashard Berry, tight end, Ohio State. Courtney Wallace Jr., defensive tackle out of Louisiana Tech. Jake Burt, tight end out of Boston College. And Trayvon Hill, defensive end out of Miami. I think Trayvon Hill, Jeff Thomas, Isaiah Zuber, and whoever wins the quarterback battle in preseason between Jamar Smith and Brian Lewerke have a chance to make the roster. So that'll be an interesting little quarterback route there. Next, we have the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans did a great job. They took a lot of Oregon boys, but we're not talking about an Oregon boy, at least at the beginning. Malcolm Roach, defensive lineman, Texas. Marquez Callaway, receiver, Tennessee. Joe Bacci, linebacker, Michigan State. Jawan Johnson, receiver, rep in Oregon. Jordan Steckler, offensive lineman, Northern Illinois. Gus Cumberlander, rep in Oregon. Edge rusher. Calvin Throckmorton, offensive tackle, rep in Oregon. Darren Paulo, offensive tackle, Utah. Tony Jones Jr., running back out of Notre Dame. Keith Washington, defensive back, West Virginia. Tino Ellis, defensive back of Maryland. Blake Gillikin, punter, Penn State. And Adrian McGee, offensive lineman, Louisiana State. Joe Bacci, good pickup. Malcolm Roach, good pickup. Marquez Callaway, good pickup. Jawan Johnson, good pickup. Gus Cumberlander, good pickup. Calvin Throckmorton, good pickup. It could be very interesting. I think a few of these guys have chances to make that roster. Next we got the Giants. The Giants went Benjamin Victor, receiver, Ohio State, and then they double dipped and took another receiver at Ohio State and Austin Mack. Case Cookis, quarterback, Northern Arizona. Javon Leake, running back out of Maryland. Ryzen John, receiver out of Simon Fraser. Dana Levine, defensive end out of Temple. Kyle Murphy, offensive lineman out of Rhode Island. Nico Lalos, edge rusher out of Dartmouth. Kyle Marway, tight end out of South Carolina. Derek Dillon, receiver out of LSU. Malcolm Elmore, defensive back out of Central Methodist. Christian Angulo, corner out of Hampton. Tyler Haycraft, offensive lineman out of Louisville. Dominique Ross, linebacker out of North Carolina. And Jacarius Landrews, the defensive back out of Mississippi State. I think 3 or 4 players might make the run. 3. I think one of these Ohio State receivers in Victor and Matt could make it. And I also think Jacarius Landrews could make it onto that end of the day 53-man roster. Now we got to talk about the Jets. Jets, Jets. Lamar Jackson, corner, Nebraska. I know you're not getting the real Lamar Jackson. Jay Flynn, Guthrie, corner, Utah. Lawrence Kager, receiver, Georgia. Sterling Johnson, defensive tackle, Coastal Carolina. Dominique Davis, defensive lineman, North Carolina. George Campbell, receiver, West Virginia. Shaheem Carter, defensive back out of Alabama. Jared Hilbers, offensive lineman out of Washington. And Bryce Huff, linebacker out of Michigan. I think Huff could be a decent little guy, especially at UDFA. Same thing with Lamar Jackson and Shaheem Carter. 2 really solid players. Now we're on to the Eagles. Eagles fly. We got Noah Togiai, tight end out of Oregon State. Dante Olson, linebacker, Montana. Menacee Bailey, receiver out of Morgan State. Prince Smith, a defensive back out of New Hampshire. Graylin Arnold, defensive back out of Baylor. Julian Good-Jones, guard out of Iowa State. Michael Jacquet, defensive back out of Louisiana Lafayette. Luke Juriga, corner out of Western Michigan. Adrian Killens, running back out of Central Florida. Elijah Riley, defensive back out of Army. Michael Warren, running back out of Cincinnati. Raekwon Williams, defensive tackle out of Michigan State. And Khalil Tate, quarterback out of Arizona. That's the interesting one to me, at least. Khalil Tate is one of those guys. He could have a really good year or a really bad year. And I think it'll be interesting to watch Khalil Tate, especially in this little Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz QB room. I think Khalil Tate could surprise you and make the roster. The Pittsburgh Steelers take Trajan Bandy, corner, Miami. James Lockhart, linebacker, Baylor. James Pierre, corner, Florida Atlantic. Josiah Coatney, defensive lineman, Ole Miss. Spencer Nye, fullback out of Auburn. Christian Montano, guard out of Tulane. Leah Lewis, linebacker, Mississippi State. John Houston, linebacker, USC. Calvin Taylor, defensive end out of Kentucky. And Corliss Waitman, punter out of Mississippi State. James Lockhart is a guy I think has a little bit of potential that you might be able to salvage coming out of that Baylor team. Next, we have the San Francisco 49ers. JaMychal Hasty, running back out of Baylor. DeMarcus Acey, a corner out of Mizzou. Chris Fink, receiver out of Notre Dame. Jonah Griffin, linebacker, Indiana State. Salvin Ahmed, running back out of Washington. Brock Rudder, corner out of North Central. Jared Maiden, safety out of Bama. Darian Daniels, defensive tackle out of Nebraska, and Chase Harrell, tight end out of Arkansas. I think Hasty and definitely Salvin Ahmed have chances to make that roster as one of their running backs. Next, we have the Seattle Seahawks taking Anthony Gordon out of Washington State, quarterback. Chris Miller, safety, Baylor. Anthony Jones, running back, FIU. Eli Mincer, linebacker, Albany. Marcus Webb, defensive tackle, Troy. Kamas Silverland, corner out of Oklahoma State. Seth Dawkins, receiver at Louisville. Tom Wood Anderson, tight end, Tennessee. Gavin Heslop, defensive back out of Stony Brook. Josh Avery, defensive tackle out of Southeast Mizzou State. Aaron Fuller, receiver out of Washington. Tyler Mabry, tight end out of Maryland. Patrick Carr, running back out of Houston. I think Fuller and Gordon are two names to watch, especially in preseason. Gordon might be the heir apparent to Russell Wilson. I don't know. A solid player from Washington State, and then Aaron Fuller, just a really good receiver at his time in Washington. So it'll be interesting to see if either of them make it to your 53-man roster. Next, we have the Buccaneers. Reed Sinnett, quarterback out of San Diego State. Nasir Player, defensive lineman out of Eastern Tennessee State. Parnell Motley, corner out of Oklahoma. Michael Divinity, linebacker at LSU. John Molshon, offensive lineman out of Boise State. Jovan Hagen, safety out of Ohio. Nick Leverett, offensive lineman out of Rice. Cam Gill, linebacker out of Wagner College. John Hurst, receiver out of Western Georgia. Josh Pearson, a receiver out of Jacksonville State. And Zach Shackelford, the center out of Texas. A lot of these guys I don't think are going to make the roster, but Parnell Motley and Michael Divinity are two very interesting names. Parnell Motley was a solid corner for a average defense. If it was 2 years ago, they would have been way below average, but they were average last year at Oklahoma. And then Michael Divinity, one of these solid LSU linebackers. So I think it could be a very interesting situation between them two if they can make it into the roster. And second, but not last, is Tennessee Titans taking Mason Kinsey, receiver out of Barry. Kobe Smith, defensive tackle out of South Carolina. Kyle Williams, receiver out of Arizona State. Cameron Scarlett, running back out of Stanford. Kalian Curtis Thomas, linebacker at Arizona State. Tucker McCann, kicker out of Mizzou. Christian Wilkerson, receiver, Southeast Mizzou. Cale Garrett, linebacker out of Mizzou. And then Aaron Brewer, center, Texas State. Brandon Kemp, offensive lineman, Valdosta State. And Tommy Hudson, tight end, Arizona State. And Anthony McKinney, offensive tackle, TCU. I don't think many of these guys, if any, are going to make that 53-man roster. Just not any big names or good names, really. Except for maybe one of these guys that went to a smaller school that might turn out to be a diamond in the rough. I don't know. But the Washington Redskins are going to close out this podcast with 3 players. Thaddeus Moss, tight end out of LSU. We thought he might get drafted around the 5th or 6th round there. Didn't happen. Ended up going undrafted. One great game ain't going to get you drafted. Thaddeus Moss, you might have been able to fool some people, but you weren't able to fool the GMs in the NFL. But he is going to go to the Redskins in the UDFA pool. Steven Montez, a corner out of Colorado. And Isaiah Wright, receiver out of Temple. Montez also has a shot to possibly be a backup for Dwayne Haskins. Anyways, thanks for coming to the UDFA podcast. I want to let you guys know that this Friday there is not going to be a podcast. I'm going to be taking a day off, so I hope you all understand. But with all the sports kind of going away, we didn't want to overload everything just to get a podcast out. So, and there will not be a podcast on Monday or on Friday. The next podcast will be on Monday, and I believe as of right now, unless there's something big that comes out, we're going to be talking about the NBA season possibly returning. As of right now, that's what I believe I'm going to be talking about. So stay tuned. Make sure if you're on YouTube to click the subscribe button. Make sure if you're on the Podbean app to make sure you follow the podcast if you want to hear some more about my takes on sports. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next podcast.